What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD interview. Every single week, we interview top entrepreneurs and just straight up top badasses that are out there dominating their space. These are people that are not choosing to live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and choose to create an epic life for themselves and their family. And today, you guys, got a special guest on the show, real estate agent up in Calgary, Canada, that's doing a lot of massive things, social media ninja up there in the real estate business. So really stoked and honored to have Sarah Johnston on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked. I got introduced to you by a good friend of mine. I've been watching what you're doing up there, and it's really impressive stuff. I'm a big social media buff as well, so I'm really excited to hear your strategies and what you've got going on. But before we jump into that, I'm always interested in our guest's journey that led them to entrepreneurship in the first place. So let's rewind the clock to it. It's high school, college, whatever that looks like. Like, what led you into becoming an entrepreneur?
Oh gosh, we're going back quite a few years here. It's funny, if you had asked me when I was going to university, I put in a good 4 years, if I would be, dealing in real estate 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, heck no. It wasn't even anything that was on my radar. I went to school for environmental science. I was a book nerd, like science, very factual based, this is what it is. And I had continued my journey during that. I had, gotten into project management with junior exploration companies. I got to explore some really cool areas of Northern Canada and down in South America. And I actually really loved what I was doing. But I hit a certain point in my mid-20s, and I know that seems young, but I had hit a point where I knew that what I was doing wasn't going to be forever. And not only was it not going to be forever, but it wasn't going to be something that I could retire on. So I started reading, and I started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I started with those series, and I got into it a little bit and thought to myself, you know what? I need to get into properties. I need to set myself up, or else, today's day and age, we don't have what our parents had. Both of my parents belong to a union, and so they're able to retire. Even that at times is a little on edge at the moment, but I knew that I would never have that for myself. And so I got into real estate just kind of for fun. I wanted to invest in properties and have renters and tenants and get land. I had horses. And it's nice to say that and think that. It's another thing to go out and do it. So first, I thought, you know what? I'm going to get my real estate license. It's just going to be for fun. It's going to be on the side. I'm probably not going to like it, but it will help further my education. I like to learn. So I got my license, and I started to get a couple of clients. Now, this was a long, hard process. I lived in a city where I didn't grow up. I didn't have friends or family here. I got my real estate license, and I got 1 or 2 clients within the first year. I was by no means busy. I wasn't killing it. I wasn't doing anything, but I came to realize that I actually really loved it. That excitement, that thrill, that opening your mind to whatever could be possible started to come to me. And I made a decision. And I made a decision about 1.5 years into real estate that I was going to quit my full-time job, what I had gone to school and university for, and just do real estate full-time. And so that's sort of how, a roundabout way I came to it. And I haven't looked back. I've sort of peeked back, but I haven't completely looked back.
Yeah, I love it. So I know you got in the business. It's been about 10 years. I think we got licensed around the same time, 2005, 2006.
Yep.
So you kind of dabbled a little bit while you were doing your full-time career. And then when you went full-time into this and left that career, the statistic is 90% of agents drop out in the first 3 years. It's very, very tough to make that transition and go full-time. What were some of those initial challenges that maybe you had that you didn't expect to have, or when you transitioned full-time that arose that you had to overcome?
Well, I was terrified. All of a sudden, you're not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. You are not only not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, but you might not get one for 3 or 4 months. So it's great to go out and say, okay, well, I sold a property. That's fantastic. But you're not actually getting paid for that until well after possession of the property. So trying to figure out money was a big, big issue I had. Trying to say, okay, in my mind, I have this amount, but I actually have absolutely nothing. Trying to figure out that this is a business and that you have to run your personal business like a business probably took me a good 5 years to figure out. So you've got to keep, they say invest in yourself, but it's really invest in your business, and you're creating and growing something. When I quit my job, Calgary was actually going through a real estate boom. So while it wasn't easy to get clients, it was a heck of a lot easier than, say, it is now. So we were going through a boom. Well, you know what happens every time there's a boom, there's a bust. So about 3 years after I got my license, we were in for a big bust. The market completely collapsed. There was very few deals happening. There was a lot of inventory on the market. And it was, it's feast or famine. And we were definitely within a famine. So learning that long time budgeting, those long time goals, I learned the hard way. It was the school of hard knocks for that. It was a down and out. And I think, you mentioned the statistic of 90% of agents are out within the first 3 years. During that time, it was probably close to 100. Yeah. It was tough.
Yeah. So I know that today you specialize in a lot of condos, but I know Calgary's got a mix. You got a lot of condos, but you got a lot of single family attached. What drove you more to the condo market?
I think it was just where I was in my life, right? You realize that you attract certain clients, and not only do you attract them, but they're actually the ones that you really want, because you guys, you've got a lot in common. You can kind of see where they're coming from and vice versa. And building that relationship is really important. So, I got my condo designation pretty early on in my career, just because a lot of people start out when they're purchasing properties. They start out with a condo or a townhouse and slowly make that progression and that move into single family housing. So it just seemed like a natural progression and choice for me, which is why I did that. For a while, I went back into primarily single family homes. It wasn't a choice, but I'm very client based. So whatever they're doing, and I just make sure that I've got all of the proper education to back up whatever I'm helping my clients with.
Yeah, love it. So in that downturn where you had, almost 100% of the agents dropping out, and, Phoenix was one of the markets that got hit really hard too. What were some of the things that you did that helped you not become the statistic and go out there and not just survive, but continue growing your business during that tough time?
You know what? I didn't grow my business during that tough time. It was, like I said, school of hard knocks. Every month I thought about quitting and giving up. At the end of the day, it was just my downright stubbornness and determination that kept me in it and kept me going. A 1-year recession. Now, we got hit hard, but it was only for a year, maybe two. I was out of it for a good 3 to 4 years. Now, when I say out of it, I was making a base wage. I wasn't growing. I wasn't looking at the market positively. I was pretty negative, and it took me a long time to get out of that. So it was really just downright grit and determination. It was not seeing the bigger picture. That's something that in hindsight I realized, which is why it took me so long. And some of it was just luck and having some great clients.
Yeah, so two questions there. When you say you're thinking almost daily about giving up, right? Like, what kept you going, even though you're in a bad mental state, kind of depressed, kind of down? Like, what kept you going? And then what was that like turning point, if there was a turning point, that you started looking at the big picture and had that mindset shift?
For sure. It was, a lot of it was just stubbornness. And I kept thinking, okay, if I can get more education, if I can do more for my clients, and all it really takes is 1 or 2 clients that all of a sudden take you aside and they say, thank you for what you've done. And that appreciation and positivity just kind of, you get that injection, and then you start opening your mind up to what can happen. Now, when our market had kind of come back and I started to see, okay, this was the market, but that was my problem. I was blaming it on the market. And I was blaming it on the market and not realizing that it doesn't matter what's going on in the market. Whatever's going on out there is one thing, but what's going on in my head is a completely other. So I started to take more education. I started to learn quite a bit more about how all of this works together. There's a great program actually down in the States that I took that helped, give me a big kick in the butt, is what it comes down to. And that's when I started to see the bigger picture again.
Yeah, love it. So you see the bigger picture. What were some of the major shifts, maybe top 2-3 shifts that you made in your business that started the trajectory for the success that you've had now?
Really, and it's treating your business like a business. And not only that, but giving myself a very structured schedule. So instead of, hey, I'm in real estate, I get to sleep in until 8, 9, or 10 in the morning, forget it. I'm up every morning at 6. I'm going to the gym. I'm writing down my affirmations. I'm sending thank you cards. I'm sitting there and structuring out my day, and I'm treating it very seriously. And as soon as I made that jump and that change, everything else started to fall into place.
Yep, I love it. I love it. So, okay, now I know today you're doing a lot of your business through social media. I know you've got, I don't know, close to 10,000 Instagram followers, and how did that come into play? How did you transition into? Because dude, when you and I first got licensed, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't Instagram, there wasn't even YouTube, which is kind of hard to fathom, you know. But at what point did you get so deep into social media?
Well, a year ago.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Calgary, our market it's up or it's down, and there's not really a lot of in between. So last year, we were facing a down market again, and that brought me back to 2008 and 9, where it took me 4 years to get out of a 1-year slump. I knew that we were going back into a down market again, and my mind started to go negative. Even though I had made all of these changes with my business, you still can't help think, okay, but the market is drastically shifting. What am I going to do? So I had another moment last year, like, oh my gosh. And it's not to say that I wasn't in social media. Of course I am. I don't live under a rock. But I wasn't putting a lot into it because I didn't personally identify with any of the social media platforms. Even Instagram. When I first started playing around with Instagram, I thought, okay, this is great, but what can it really do for me? And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to give myself some time, and I'm going to try to figure this out. So when I first started with Instagram, I actually used it business-wise as a motivating tool for me, because by then I knew that if I could stay motivated and stay active, that I would continue to stay busy. Forget what's going on in the market, that the bottom's falling out. I need something that is going to self-motivate me. And so that's essentially what I started using Instagram for. It's been life-altering and kind of changing. There were a few key moments within that story that really kind of opened up my mind even more, but it was just a lot of determination to begin with.
Yeah, so
trial and error.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So let's go into a few of those key moments that you're talking about there. But then also, I'd really love to hear, because a lot of people are like, well, okay, I got this Twitter thing, I got this Facebook thing, I got this Instagram thing, but how the hell do I even use them to really go out there and generate business? Right? You're posting things about your kids or whatever it may be, but how do I get business? So maybe go through those key points for you, and then after that, we'll kind of follow up with, hey, if I'm brand new with 2 followers, how do I build it?
Perfect. So the first thing is just to start. Whatever you're doing, just start. And just start posting and wherever it is. If you're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Snapchat's something I really didn't understand or get, and I'm slowly understanding what's going on there. But just start with something. If I go back to the first few posts that I made with Instagram, they're horrible. They're disgusting. They're embarrassing. But I keep them on there because it's a good reminder for me. So start with anything. I don't care what you post, just put something up there.
Yep. So okay, so you get started. Now today, I don't know where you're at, but I think it's close to like 10,000 followers, local followers that are clients or potential clients. So what does that look like? Like what you say get started, but what are you posting? How frequently should you be posting? Is there too much? Because we don't want to be like in your face, give me business, that person either, right?
No, of course not. And just a little bit of a history there. A lot of my followers are actually realtors. A lot of my followers are realtors from the States. So it's interesting to see that. And I think I've kind of struck a chord, not on purpose, but just by being me, showing my ups and showing my downs, showing the other side, the frustration, right? My handle is Adventures in Real Estate. Like, this takes up and consumes our entire lives. Being an entrepreneur in anything that you do is going to take up your entire life. You're always doing or thinking something. Yes, I can go on vacation, but I'm still thinking, what's next? Where can I go and what can I do? So you're starting with something. You start to get these followers. I have broken down, when to post, what to post, but you still have to make it authentic. At the end of the day, it has to be you. So there are robots, there are computers, you can plug things in and they're going to come up with automatic content. But the reason people follow things is because of you. So your personality has to shine through. So it doesn't necessarily what you're posting, especially at the beginning, but make sure it represents you. And I stumbled upon that by posting something that I probably wouldn't have if I had not been drinking and completely and utterly frustrated at the moment. Luckily for me, it worked out well, but it hit a nerve, and it started to make me realize a few things. So, during the days, I like to post either first thing in the morning. So think about it. When do you go on social media? You go on social media as soon as you wake up. A lot of times we're still laying in bed and we're playing through our phones. Second time you look is generally you get to the office, you've done a few things, and it might be that weird time right before lunch. You're looking then. The third time, before the end of the day, before people leave the office, what are they doing? They're on social media. The fourth time is that evening hour. So maybe the kids have gone to bed, you finished with dinner, all of the activities for the evening are done. Maybe you're sitting down to watch TV or you're getting ready for bed, and that's kind of the fourth time. So I tend to post during those times, unless something happens and I just get so excited that I have to throw something up right away. But you want to post when the most people are actually following and looking, especially with all of the algorithms, which we can probably get to a bit later, that Facebook and Instagram have now.
Yeah, I love it. So when you're posting that frequently, I mean, is you have a combination as far as, again, I mean, how much should be real estate, how much should be personal, so then people just aren't burnt out of, okay, look, we get it, you're in real estate, we'll maybe give you a call, right? Like, is there kind of a balance?
For sure there is. Now, that being said, my Instagram account is business, right? Business is life. People follow me for that. If I post too much personal stuff, I notice people start leaving in droves because they're there for a certain content, and that's the content that they're there for. Now, getting back to the personal side, you do have to post a picture of yourself, or at least be in one of the pictures every third to fourth post. You're bringing it back to who you are as a person. If you're just posting quotes all the time, if you're just posting, hey, this is my new listing, like that's great, but it's not very exciting. It doesn't draw people in. It doesn't cause, any interaction to happen. And interaction at the end of the day is key. So it's not just the likes, but it's the comments, and it's replying and responding to the comments and starting a conversation under those posts.
Yeah. So when you do a post, I know you're like a big advocate on, hey, you post, like, don't just post and go jam, like, give yourself a few minutes so you can do that interaction. What does that look like? So when you're posting all this, because then two people are listening to this, they're like, dude, like, how do you get work? Like, how often do you post in a day? What are you doing? Like, sure. Like, give an idea of what that looks like. For sure.
Well, and to get back to an earlier question, I post never more than twice a day.
Okay.
And usually, and at right now, just because I'm pretty busy, but right now, I'm about 4 to 5 times a week. I'd like to get myself up to about 6 times a week, so 6 days a week. But you don't want to be Pammy Poster that is throwing something up all the time, because that gets old very quickly too. And the things that I do put up, I think, have a bit of a message. So I want that to sink in a little bit too. So you want people to kind of get excited when you do post something to get kind of that interaction going. Now, when I put something up, like I said, be very strategic about what time of the day you're putting it up there. And then follow a couple of hashtags that have something to do with your business. Now, for myself in real estate, obviously, yay, hashtag real estate, but there's millions of people that use that hashtag. It could be for anything. So I really like real estate agent. I like realtor life. I like real estate life. And I always use those hashtags for things that I post. And then after I post, I go into those hashtags and I start either liking or commenting other people's posts with the same hashtags. And that's what I'm spending those kind of 15 to 20 minutes after I post doing, is going through those hashtags. And then slowly, if you like somebody else's, they're going to be like, well, who is this person? Because maybe they don't have a lot of followers or likers. And then they come over to my account and they see things. And a lot of times we can start a conversation.
Yep, I love it. So then with the business, the next question is, okay, so a lot of your followers are the realtors. Then is the business coming from a lot of referrals? What does that look like then?
Well, the business has actually changed in the last, even 3 months. So I didn't fully realize or think that this was really going to be anything. Facebook, in my mind, was very similar. Like, okay, I can throw all of this content out there, but nobody's really caring. They just want to make sure that you have some sort of a present, because then it shows like, hey, you're legit. I've started to get referrals from other agents. Hey, that's great. That's fantastic. some of the clients that I have that have just stumbled upon me online are saying like, hey, we now, respect you even more and way to go. And by the way, here's my friends or family. Of course, it's changed the way that I think about the down market, because I'm working and I'm busy, and it's a down market, and it's really not fantastic right now in Calgary, but I'm still trucking ahead, more so than I have in previous years. So I'm very grateful for that. Now, within the last few months, other interesting things have happened. I've been getting some followers within Calgary. So, depending on if there's different events going on, I'll look up the hashtags for the events and see what everybody's doing. So I'm getting complete random strangers that have started to follow me that are in my local market. They say, hey, you're doing this or that. I've got a property coming up. Can you help me buy or sell? I've also had realtors in my market that have given me business. And I never saw that one coming, because a lot of times with other agents, we kind of act like we're competitors sometimes. And that might be so, but we are definitely not enemies. And the more this account has grown, the more I've realized how important it is to have great working relationships with the other agents in your area.
Yeah.
Now, I started to try to promote those relationships, and I'm very supportive of other agents and what they're doing. I don't believe in the scarcity principle, so I don't think I should keep everything to myself. I really do feel like there's enough for everybody out there. And because of that, some agents have approached me and they say, hey, Sarah, I've got somebody that is looking for a condo, or, I also work in rural properties. They say, you know what, I'm not quite cut out for it, but I'd be really happy if you helped them. A couple weeks ago, I had an agent come up to me and said, Sarah, we've been in the business for the same amount of time, but I need to tell you, I hate listing properties.
Right.
I was like, excuse me? Why? Everybody loves listing properties. That's the best part. She says, no, I love working with buyers. Will you take all my listings?
Yeah.
I had never met this agent before. We're not in the same brokerage. We've been following each other online, giving each other a pat on the back. And out of the blue, she's like, hey, can you take my listings?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've always said that your relationship with other realtors is as important as your clients, and a lot of people don't grasp that, but you have a working relationship, co-brokes like you're doing, or co-listings, whatever that may be, but then also, like, hey, when the market is intense and there's multiple offers, you can kind of get that intel because you have that great relationship. I mean, it's so massive, so I love it. So I got a question. When you're posting this on Instagram, because of course you can post on Instagram, then you can share on Facebook and all these other mediums. Are you sharing the same message between all mediums, or do you totally segment them?
It's partial. So nobody wants to see the same thing. If people are following you, and say you've got clients or following you on Instagram and on Facebook and on Snapchat and on Twitter and everything else, they don't want to see the exact same message coming from every media. That's the automatic way to essentially tune them out. So I will do some cross-sharing, not often or all the time. Usually if it's something that I just find funny, then I will cross-share everything. But people don't want to see that. So I do try to provide, on Instagram, if I've got a new listing, I'll say, hey, I'm at this open house, stop by, because I'm probably going to be bored and I just want to talk to somebody. But then on Facebook, I'm going to have the listing and all of the details and get into more depth with that. Snapchat, I like using for like, hey, I just dropped the key in between the deck at my open house and now I'm locked out and I need help. So they're all related to the same subject and the same thing. They're just all kind of getting it from a different angle.
Yeah, the negative pushback I'll hear from people when it comes to like a Snapchat or Instagram is, well, the age group's not there. Your average user is 18 to 24, but I'm like, wait a minute, they're eventually going to be buying. Why not build those audiences? Just like you talked about the condo market. Hey, I start here, then I'm able to help them throughout their life cycle of buying and selling. And it's the same thing with social media. We've got to be diligent on that. So are you doing any type of paid ads on Instagram?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
And I've thought about it, to be honest. I think about that sometimes, but then I also realize, and good for you if that's a direction you want to go, but I also know that it's not me. And I will do paid advertising through Facebook though.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting little turn. But as for Instagram, I'm still trying to keep that as authentic and this is me as possible. So it's funny, I was thinking about this the other day. Instagram's sort of like my own little promotional material. It's more about me and what's going on in the day-to-day life of things. Facebook is more business and listing oriented, but they all combine. And so having that different angle on everything, I think, is important. And paying for advertising, hey, whatever floats your boat and whatever method you identify with, will go far.
Yep, love it. So, I kind of want to talk about, because your market right now is a down market. You guys started shifting, about a year or so ago?
Yes.
And about 60% of the U.S. right now, 50 to 60%, is also seeing that shift. It's been this hardcore seller's market, but now we're seeing that shift into a buyer's market, and who knows how extreme it's going to get. But this is now your second shift, if you will, that you've been involved in as you've been a full-time agent. And what have you done differently in this last shift, in the last 12 months, in addition to your social media presence, but that's allowed you to this time to go out there and continue growing that business compared to like last time where it hindered you? You were just kind of hanging on.
I had already mentioned a few things. So giving myself a very structured day, not only so that I feel like I'm doing something, but I'm working towards something. Social media has played a big part of it, but getting that feedback. I was very much a lone wolf agent. So I was out there doing stuff essentially for myself, thinking to myself, other agents can't get me business. I'm not going to deal with all of that. I've become a lot more open. So within myself, dealing with other agents and realizing that those connections and those relationships are actually having an amazing positive effect on me and helping push me through this market. So I'm getting out there a lot more, not just with my clients, because I'm not the pushy realtor type, but I'm forming these relationships that are helping spur me forward.
Yep. Well, and you said, so it's not all on an online basis. I mean, you talked a little bit ago about open houses, and so what is, without I guess going into in depth, unless you want to go really in depth, but what does your business model look like as far as the percentage from your open houses to past clients to social media?
Up until about a year ago, 100% was all past clients and referral base. I love doing business that way anyways, just because to a certain extent, you do have to be picky with who you work with, right? You've got to know that there's a mutual respect moving forward. It is very important to have those clients that you trust and vice versa. So I'm very comfortable working with the referral-based business. Now, so I'm probably about 85% referral. So I've had this extra 15% that is just come, I'll say social media, but to be honest, it's just Instagram.
Yeah.
So an extra 15% from last year that has pushed through because of that. Now, the funny thing is because I like to build things on relationships, when people contact me that only know me through Instagram, by the time they make that first phone call or email or text or anything, more times than not, the first sentence is, "Sarah, I feel like I already know you."
Yeah.
That's music to my ears, because if they feel like they already know me, then they know what my personality is like, and the chances of us working well together is exponentially greater than if it was a cold call or somebody that called me off of a bus bench or something like that.
Yeah, love it. And I always say that in today's day and age, I mean, we are having to develop human connections with strangers, but social media makes it so easy. Like everybody that's watching and listening to this follows somebody that you've never met, but like you're a fan of, like you feel like you know them, right? You know them, you know what their family, you know whatever, even though you've never met them, and that is really our goal with this. So with that being said, and so much of your past clients or your business being past client repeat referral business, which is amazing because that's usually what most agents neglect.
Yeah.
Do you have a strategy where you friend request them at a certain point on Facebook or Instagram to make sure that you're utilizing that to stay in touch after the transaction?
Not necessarily. Now, at the bottom of my emails, which they get incessantly from me, it will say, "Hey, follow me here, here, and here." I'm not pushy about it, though. I actually like it when they just stumble upon me. That's the great thing that Instagram and Facebook are doing now, because I've had clients that have logged into their Instagram or Facebook account, And you know how they give you options like, hey, you like these people, maybe you should think about following these people. Well, because I'm already in their phone, my name and phone number, because I'm their realtor, I will frequently pop up. So then they just stumble upon me and then spend however much time looking through my feed saying, wow, I didn't even know you were doing this. But client communication. So yes, it's there kind of in my email. I am not pushing it. I am not friend requesting them because let's be honest, I think that might be uncomfortable for them. I don't want them to feel like, hey, I have to share my baby pictures with you unless they request me first, and then I'm all open for it. But I do communicate with all of my clients, so present and especially past, very frequently.
Yep, love it. So you talked about being yourself and being authentic, but some days we're like, we just want to tell the world to F off, and we're like in a negative state. You know, do you kind of have any internal rules with that of if ever it's appropriate to go in a negative state or vent, or is it all just positivity?
Hey, have you seen some of my posts?
So and again, because again, we talk about being authentic, and it's just what how far can you push the envelope?
It comes with the territory. This is our lives. We are doing this because we're passionate about it. We love it, but also because we eat, breathe, and sleep this. Yep. So I keep telling myself that I need to have more boundaries with this. I think I'm a pretty nice person. So, I'm not going to get on there and rant and swear and say, I don't like this person and blah, blah, blah. So you kind of censor yourself to a certain degree. But if something is really bothering me, I will air it. Now, it's way easier and you feel better about yourself if you air it on Snapchat because somebody can watch it and then it disappears and it's gone and it's like it never happened, than putting it on more of a permanent form of social media. You always have options. But yeah, try not to get too negative. But let's be honest, we're humans. We all feel the same way. And the post that really took off for me in this was not a positive post. It wasn't like, hey, everything's coming up sunshine and roses. Like there's unicorns everywhere and the world is perfect. It was I had a horrible day. Life sucks right now. And so this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. But again, it develops that connection because people want to do business with people that they feel are like-minded, right? When they see the real you, it's not just like the realtor that's all stuffy. You know what I mean? So love it. So have you started incorporating, or do you incorporate YouTube and YouTube videos and community videos? And
I do. Now, YouTube is not something that I've delved into a lot just because I feel like I'm kind of an awkward human being in video. And so it would be more of an embarrassment than anything else. Now, I use YouTube to promote my listings. So I'll have listing videos for all of my listings. Not getting a lot of traction, I'm not going to lie, because they're boring and they're very realtor. It's something I'd like to explore more to see if I can put my own touch on it. But I feel like it would be very awkward for people to watch.
Yep. Love it. So, one thing I'm interested about is because I know you do so well with your past clients. And the stat that's out there is 88% of buyers and sellers said they love their agent, would use them again. Only 11% ever do a repeat transaction because they never hear from their agent again. And you've done a really brilliant job with staying in touch. And you talked about they get a lot of your emails. So what kind of communication are you sending and how frequently to make sure that you don't neglect those past clients?
It's not just email. So here's the thing. I've got a rule that I need to be in touch. So I have to have touches with all of my clients at least 8 times a year. Yeah. So I've got my client database and I've broken it down into, my A, B, C, and D type clients. Every single one of them I need to have 8 touches. So sometimes it's just, hey, I've driven down their road, and then send them an email saying, hey, I was thinking of you. Every morning I write out 2 cards. So sometimes you're like, who should I contact now? So a lot of times they will get something in the mail from me. A couple of times a year I send them tickets to, we've got, these show home type deals that come up, these home and garden shows and that type of thing. So I always send them tickets to that. They always hear from me around Christmas. They also always hear from me on anniversaries. So it's gotten down to the point where I actually do 1 month anniversary, like, hey, can you believe you've been in your property for 1 month? And then after that, it's yearly. So they're hearing from me on their actual purchase or sale anniversary as well. So I think some people might be sick of me, but it also means that you're top of mind. So they are hearing from me all the time.
Yep, I love it. I love it. So I'm interested. You talked about, okay, now you've got a schedule, and you talked about working out in the morning. And I mean, what we find some of these successful people have a dedicated kind of daily routine that they follow to put themselves in the right state of mind, physically, mentally. What does your morning routine look like, and what does a typical day look like for you? Which I know is kind of tough, but
I know. Well, and every day is different, right? It's funny. When I first got onto Snapchat, I played around with that. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do an entire day. I'm going to snap my entire day, something that I'm doing throughout the day. Every time I'm doing something, which is funny because in real estate, I mean, my day can completely explode and go sideways at any given moment. But I do find that if I wake up nice and early, I get more done, I feel more accomplished, and it puts me in that right state of mind. So in the morning, first thing, I mean, I've got a dog, so, take him for a walk, and then I'm going to the gym. I come back and I'll have, a shake or something, and I write down essentially lines, but I write down my affirmations. So 25 times I write down whatever my affirmation is for that 90-day period. So every 3 months, I am happy making X amount per year. I am happy selling X amount per month. I am happy, like all of these things. And it's just really kind of ingraining it in your head. After that, I write out 2 thank you cards. So it can either be, thank you, thinking of you type thing to previous clients. It can be family. It can be friends. I send notes to every agent that I've worked with after the transaction's done. Correction, there were 2 agents this year that did not get notes. But you like to try to, and it's not just posturing and saying, oh, hey, this was great. I actually spend that time to try and be mindful of what I'm doing. It's been very difficult for me not to pick up my phone first thing in the morning and get right into my email. It's a work in progress, but I do have a goal not to open my email until at least 8:30 in the morning.
Yep.
Ask me how many times I've done that this year. 4.
So how early are you waking up to accomplish all this before 8:30 in the morning?
I'm trying to get up by about 5:45.
Okay.
So it's not too bad, but it's done amazing things for my mental state as well. I need to go to bed earlier. I know now that I need 7.5 hours of sleep. If I get more than that, then I'm tired. If I get less than that, then I'm tired. A lot of that was just kind of trial and error. Easier said than done sometimes, but my Fitbit has been a great little reminder for that. And it's just been, you got to think about all of these things. You've got to be very mindful.
Yep, I love it. So, you've talked about a lot about growth and self-development, and how important is self-development to you, and what does that look like on a daily, weekly basis for you?
It's everything. The only reason why I'm still here and I'm still in this business and I still have a passion for it is because I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to keep seeing what's out there. I need to keep growing. I came up with a saying when I think I was 12 or 13 years old, that who I am today is not who I was yesterday or who I'll be tomorrow. So that development means everything. I'm always taking courses. I'm always taking classes. I fall asleep best if I read before bed. So I'm always picking up, arm's reached. I've got 2 books that are my next hit list to read. So it is so important to surround yourself not just with that positivity, but that continuing to learn. You obviously understand that. I'm sure this is the reason you have a podcast. It helps so many people to listen, to hear, to be around, all of those things.
Yep, love it. Yeah, one of those books you just had in your head, the 10X Rule. That's one of my favorites. I've actually had Grant Cardone on the show, and he's
really?
Yep.
It's my next one. This is next week's book.
Oh, it's gonna blow your mind. I read it every December. I've probably read that book now like 11 times. I mean, it'll blow your mind. So, no, I love that. So, let's say something happens, or let's just say hypothetically that you leave Calgary and you transplant your real estate business here to Phoenix, Arizona, right? Yeah. So you don't know anybody, you're brand new, don't know anybody in the area, but you have all the knowledge that you've learned now over the years. Like, what's the first thing that you would do to come down here and start growing your business, starting from scratch?
It's funny you say that, because I think about that sometimes. I think, okay, if I had to move somewhere else, have I built the foundation to make this business movable, or else sometimes we just feel stuck, right? Like, hey, well, I can't do anything else anywhere else. That structure, so important. Starting to make connections, so important. Don't be too proud to go door knocking, to start calling up people, to start building a database. So the first thing that I would start to do would be to try to build a database from anywhere and anything, because that database is your lifeline and it means everything. But keeping the skills and structure that I've learned here, I feel like if I were to do this over again, famous last words, that I'd be able to, and I feel like I'd see that success a lot sooner, but that I can move what I'm doing here and do it in other markets and other areas.
Yep. Love it. So, speaking of the database, because that's one thing that so many agents neglect, of course, what system do you use personally in your business to keep all that together? Or do you have one?
So I've been racking my brain because I'm in the midst of a change. I've tried really hard to get on the Salesforce IQ path. It's been difficult for me because the initial setup of everything, and I don't have a lot of time. And so at the moment, my assistant is throwing everything back into prospects.
Okay.
I'm sure you guys have that down there too. It is the easiest. It is the most phenomenal. All I need is notices to come up in my phone saying, these are the anniversaries coming up. This is what you have to remember. Things about clients, like on possessions, you learn things about them. So I know what clients like white wine, what type of white wine, or if they only like red wine, if they only like, girly drinks, if they're only beer and they only like IPA type beer. So I start making all of these lists and associating it with the clients. But keeping on top of that database is everything. I've also got all of my clients in an Excel spreadsheet that I look at daily. So I've got my lists. I've got my deals that are completed. I've got my current clients, so what's going on right now, my buyers and my sellers. I have my prospects, so who I'm thinking about, because it's funny, don't you notice when you think about somebody, all of a sudden something happens in relation to them. So I've got those prospects, and then I've kind of got the fifth category of long-term prospects. So prospects being something might happen in 3 to 6 months. Long-term is 6 months plus. So I'm diligent in going over all of those lists, of thinking about everybody that is on those lists daily.
So when you talk about getting all that intel from your clients upon closing, so you know those things, I mean, is that just something like you've always been really personal on questions that you just have always asked, or do you kind of have like a getting to know you checklist that you have them fill out so you can gain that information? I mean, how do you get all that information from them?
I don't know. Sometimes I'm really bad at it. Last week I had a possession and I had to send the husband a text and then the wife a separate text asking each of them what the other person liked to drink. So that was a fail on my part. I should have noticed that beforehand. But you can do certain things, and this is going to sound a little bit creepy. So if you're listing a property, you're probably going to be there quite often. You're there for the pictures. You might be doing an open house. Take a look around. Not only just take a look around, but get in the habit of writing notes to yourself. I put everything in my phone under the contact. So if I bring up a contact in my phone, it's going to have all of these random things about them. Kids' names, I forget them all the time. I don't have kids, so I don't think about it. I always forget them. But if you can remember their name and then their birthday, that's huge. All of a sudden, this person's like, wow, they remember I mean something to them. So you can look around, with your sellers like that. With buyers, it's more something that you just come across when I'm looking at homes. So when we're looking at homes together, I like to make a lot of jokes. We're talking, we're chatting all of the time. We might go out for a lunch or for coffee, and you start noticing things about them. Right? Some clients like a certain handbag. Some people mention a trip that they've taken. Some people will bring this up naturally, because what do we all like to do the most? Talk about ourselves.
Yeah, I love it. So, I get asked this question all the time as well. Like, what's the ideal closing gifts? Like what are some samples that you do for your clients? Because obviously you put all this thought in there so you can do something super cool. So, like, what are some examples of some of the things that you do or have done?
you can do things that are super cool, unless you procrastinate and you realize the night beforehand that you need to be super thoughtful, and you have like 12 hours, 7.5 of those which you're sleeping to be thoughtful in. But I really do like to be thoughtful and put things together for people. So, we had talked about kind of wine and alcohol, and that's sort of the go-to. But depending on the season, things can change. I do have some pictures on my Instagram of a few closing baskets that I did at the beginning of the summer. I had a couple families that were moving together to different communities. I put together picnic baskets with, hey, these are great hiking trails. These are some cute biking trails near you. All of the stuff that they'd need for a nice kind of family picnic together. So depending on if they have kids, if they don't have kids, what stage they are in life. One of my guys was kind of a motorhead, so I got him a gift card to a store that I knew he frequented. I went there and we chatted about him, and you can you get this intel, and you can put some neat things together. But it's not easy being thoughtful.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where, and you've talked about this with several things in life, from your sleep to, as long as you're conscious about it and you know what to focus on and you're intentional, then it makes it that much easier. So I love it. So where do you, and I know it's tough because times are changing so fast, our goals are changing so fast, but you're doing a lot of business is growing, you have an assistant, and where do you see yourself taking this to? I mean, what are your goals in the real estate business? I mean, are you looking to create a large team? I mean, what does this look like? Where do you see yourself in the future?
I read an interesting book recently called The Happiness Equation, and it talked about your ikigai. It's a Japanese phrase, and it essentially is your reason for being. And I thought about that for a while, because you know how there's certain things that you're passionate, certain skills that you just innately have, certain things that you just love doing because it brings you so much joy. Part of this business I love, and let's face it, some of it I don't. So I was really thinking about ikigai, like, what do I want? What am I here for? I realized that I really like doing things like this. I like kind of spreading the word, starting fires, bringing passion within people, helping them, training them. I get a lot of calls and emails and texts from agents in my own city that want to sit down for coffee, want to pick my brain about something. I'm always up for saying yes to that type of thing, because if I've got some knowledge that they need or could help them on the way, that's what I want to do. So long-term goals, I have about 8 textbooks right behind me right now. I'm going to finish my broker's license so that I can have a team and a brokerage that shares some of the same fundamental skills that I do moving forward. I think our industry gets a very, very bad rap. I think that sometimes us ourselves within our industry promote that bad rap. And I think that times are changing. If you are not providing a service, people can now do things themselves. And, I'd like to help that along its way. So being open about things like this, I haven't neglected to not answer any questions. I'll answer any of them. But I would like to have a brokerage of like-minded agents moving forward that are known to be, open and honest and enthusiastic and knowledgeable about what they're doing.
Yep, no, I love it, and I can see the mentor, the coach within you. The trainer, the coach, the mentor, and that's awesome. You definitely have that gift. So, just so we have a massive realtor base that listens to this podcast, as well as other entrepreneurs, right? So, what's the best way for them to, if they want to follow you on Instagram or reach out to you on social media or learn more about you? What's the best way to reach you? Whether it's just they want to see what you're doing, whether they have referrals they want to send, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, of course. I'm pretty much Adventures in Real Estate YYC everywhere. So you can go onto Facebook, you can search Adventures in Real Estate YYC. You're going to find me on Instagram, on Snapchat, on Twitter. You'll find me that way.
Awesome. So, I started this podcast. It's going on about 18 months ago. And the reason I started it was because there's so much information that gets just puked all over us all day long, right? Most of it's smoke and mirrors by people that have never done it. And this applies to every single business. And I was like, hey, let's create a space when we actually interview the doers. People like yourself that are in the trenches, that are actually out there creating business, and share what you're doing that works, to share it with our audience so they can go out there and have success as well. So with that being said, everybody that's watching and listening to this is watching and listening because they want to go out there and create an epic life for themselves. So do you have any last words of maybe inspiration, motivation that you'd like to leave them with so they can go out there and create the life they know that they want and deserve?
You can do it, and start right now.
Yep, I love it. Love it. Yep.
Just do it.
I couldn't agree more. I love it. Powerful words. So, and to those that are watching and listening, I know I end every podcast with this, you guys, but information without implementation is just the start of delusion. Information is no longer power. It's executing and taking action on that information that creates power in your world. So Sarah shared so many just amazing pieces of information, so many golden nuggets with you guys today. Take something that you learned, go out there, take action on it right now. So you can go out there and create that life that you want and deserve. Make sure to follow Sarah on social media. And Sarah, thank you so much for being here, taking time out of your busy day. This has been a great time, and I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right, you guys, we will see you next time.